Hello, community. Hello, hello. I'm waiting for you guys to come in and join me in this fantastic event. I am so excited for you to meet three amazing Kintsugi ladies. I love them so much. These ladies, not only that they inspired me. Aloha, salud. As you guys come in, please say hello so I can see. I hope you approved StreamYard. I want to see who is here so I can say hello to you. A Facebook user, whoever this is, you didn't approve StreamYard, so I don't know who you are. You can go to the Heal with Gold page and approve StreamYard. Just click on that link. Oh, a Brazilian. You guys have to go and approve StreamYard. Guys, I want to know who's here. But let's go back. I want to introduce you. Oh, that's Paul. Paul, you don't know how to go approve StreamYard? Guys, I'm going to begin because you don't want to just hear me. You want to meet these amazing women. So first of all, I want to share with you how I met them. As you know, I went on a journey to meet inspiring people, women. Marina, hi. I wanted to meet inspiring women that have gone through adversity and they overcame. They are resilient, they're strong, they're powerful, they're almighty. And I wanted to hear from them, their stories, how they overcame, how they're surviving. I wanted to see that they could achieve joy after going through difficulties. And throughout these 2 years, I've interviewed a lot of women, and those three are part of my Kintsugi ladies. So without further ado, I will bring each one in and I'll say a few words about each one as I bring them in. And then when they are all on the screen, we're going to start and meet them and know more about their stories. So this is April. April escaped from domestic abuse. Her story is beyond fascinating. When I'd say life is a mountainous terrain and we go up and we go down, she knows that so well. And I can't wait for her to share her story with you. Next is Kathy. Kathy is was abused as a child by her stepfather. Her book, I mean, I have so many little stickers on her book because it spoke to me so well. I've showed you before when she's speaking, I'll get her book. But she really introspected. She's like the queen of introspection, really learned so much about herself and wrote about it, and so incredible. And last but not least, that's Judy. Judy's son passed away a little over a year ago. He was a rapper, a successful one, signed with a good a music company, and he overdosed and passed away. And Judy spent 2 weeks with him at the hospital in his last moments. And she shares in her book everything about what she went through during that period of her life, but also she shares how she survived it, you know, and all the techniques that she knows from all her previous work. So I'm welcoming everybody. You are in the presence of inspiration. You are in the presence of holy, holy people. I promise you that. So share the stories, share the videos after with your communities, and we will start with April, who is going to talk about her story. And I just ask everybody the following. I'm not going to be posting all of the comments that pop just so we don't lose concentration, because they're going to share, you know, emotional parts of life. So I don't want, it's difficult to be interrupted by comments, but I will at the end show them. When you have a question, you can keep the questions for the end, write question, and then for whom the question is. If you're afraid that you're going to forget the question and you want to put it down, I'm like that. I need to get it out of my mind. Write right away, write question beforehand. So then when I'll have to scroll back up, I will find your questions quickly. April, hi.
Hello. Thank you, Mary, so much for having me here tonight. If my hands start to fly, it's for probably my deaf audience because I have 9 children, 2 who are born deaf. So I'm always used to signing when I'm in front of the camera, and I Zoom all day long in front of a camera teaching children who are deaf. So if my hands fly, that's why. And I don't know how many you might have hard of hearing or deaf in your audience, but there we go. That's just kind of a little bit out of the way, a little bit about me. So we're going to dive right on in. Think about clicking buckles across the chest of 3 of your boys, then running back into a basement apartment, reaching for your 2 daughters. Think about trying to grab just the barest essentials. You have a timer ticking. You're down to about 3 minutes left. You've put everyone in the car. You have a few things in a cooler. You have a few clothes thrown in a bag. And you have your cell phone, your charger, and your computer. You decide to push the van out of the garage, fire it up, and as you fire it up, there's pounding on the hood of the van. There's screaming for you to stop. And I decided to throw it in reverse, which threw this person off the van, and I went around him and out of the driveway into the snow, never to return to that basement apartment, which I called the abyss of abuse. And we were out. That did not mean we were free. We were hunted, like many people who finally leave domestic violence. We were hunted several weeks. We were homeless. I have 5 children, 3 that are on the autism spectrum. And I will say being homeless isn't the best for kids with autism. It's not the best for anyone, but I can kind of say that with a smile because I've lived through it. We had friends offer basement apartments. We were in the car. We stayed at hotels. We did different things. And in my book, Pinpoints of Light, that is the crux of the entire story. And how through it all, we were still able to find hope. The plan that we had made worked. So I don't want to give away too much because I hope you go through the story. But thinking about finally leaving and what helps us to do that was something that I was not really prepared for, which I found in this book that I wrote, my second book, which you come to a place where you were at the bottom. And for me, it was an abyss. I had absolutely no light left. I could not see light. I could not feel light, the heat from light, nothing, until there was this faint pinpoint. And I know I speak a little bit metaphorically, but that one pinpoint led me to the next step. And I saw another one, led me to the next step. And I saw another. And that's kind of this journey of how many of us who finally leave domestic violence, it becomes this journey. We feel that the escape is we're finally out, and we look behind us and think it's gone, it's done. And that's true to a point. And then we turn to face in front of us, and there's just that single pinpoint that's so far away. Because now the healing has to start. So the journey through that, for myself, because I, found myself as the single parent, working full time, doing a master's course, working with children with special needs all day long in the special needs classroom, and going home all day and all night long with my own special needs kids on the autism spectrum. So there wasn't a lot of time, but I knew that healing had to start. So I started where I could. And if anything, I hope that you get out of this is that you start where you are. Don't think that later will be better. If I only have this, if I only have that, then I can start. Just start. So where I was, like I said in my master's course, I observed a lot and watched healthy relationships a little bit nah, not so healthy relationships, and just watched to see what I was missing. And so I almost split my note cards in half, where I would be observing the other students in my cohort as well as taking notes on my master's courses. And with that and with my Heavenly Father, because I've always known in my life that He's always been there for me, always, even through everything. I never once doubted that He wasn't there, ever. So maybe I'm blessed that way. I'm not sure. I've always known. And He's the only one I can ever trust, ever, fully. So we have a good connection. And so as we talk, and I'm a person in high action all the time. So I do a lot of my talking while I'm walking with God. I'm not very good at being kneeling down and reverent, because when the Spirit speaks to me, I get excited and squealy and wiggly, just like a little 2-year-old probably. So I walk, and that's a little bit more reverent. But the point is when we have those discussions and direction and talking, I didn't ever really use the word healing, like, okay, I'm out of the abuse. Now it's time to heal. Let's get started. I didn't really understand any of that vocabulary. I just knew I had to have a change. And so in looking at the relationships in front of me, learning how to become a teacher, learning how to care for others in a way that was beyond my family, really stretched me. Because when you're in abuse, it's so center focused for your survival. It's really hard to focus outward. You definitely can have empty actions and doing things, and it's okay. It's a start. But I always remained guarded, and to build trust and connect with others was really a challenge. And so I knew that was probably the place I needed to start with the healing. So it was just drop by drop, pinpoint by pinpoint. Because what I found myself in the darkness, I'm not just showing this, but what I want you to see is just the face and the swirling hair. The eye is reaching because I can see something more. And yet they're within the storm. And so the darkness that is around us, we have to make a choice. And when I decided to make this choice, probably because I'm a writer, I'll speak a little bit metaphorically, so just hang with me. But when I decided to really make that choice, I found myself kind of bumping into something, which was a cage. I couldn't believe it. I'd actually put myself in a cage, which I call the comfort cage. Not because it was a place of comfort and love. It was the place that I knew, and because I had known it for so long, it became comfortable, but it didn't mean it was right. And I had actually built every one of those bars out of my fear, out of the lies I would tell myself or hear. And the person who told me a lot of those lies came from a voice within, which I call the shame shadow, old shamey. Been with me a long time. So when I started this journey to leave this comfort cage, I found myself in what I call the learning zone. So in the learning zone, it's a place of total vulnerability. You've got hecklers on the side. It's tough, and you learn a lot. But within that place, I found myself gaining understanding, learning that my fails were actually wins because I didn't repeat it. Where my old habits, I would run back to that comfort cage, slam the door shut, and say, even though that was hard, I know I'm at least safe here. But that shame shadow could just go right through the bars, sit right beside me, and just keep talking all the negative things constantly. And so when I would sit in that place, I could feel myself really lose the ground that I'd reached and given. And so I'd go back out into, quote, that learning zone. And one thing I discovered, that as I was learning to forgive, to change, to find out what the pain was, I discovered something that, well, I always knew was there. And it was from a summer when I was 8 years old, from a neighbor sexual abuse, and I had to face that piece of things, because when that all happened, my understanding and meaning shifted within myself. Is that I started to attach how I was loved, or how I could love someone else, was from what I performed, how perfect I was, and how I could please others. So it became this poison, right? This pleasing, performing, perfecting draft I would drink every day. And if I couldn't measure up, well, old Shamie would let me know how far away I was. He was very, very accurate in his measurements, right? And just that concept of constantly the negativity. And yet on the outside, let's do this bright, merry sunshine as much as possible, because it would please others. But it was depleting. And so many of us know this story of what it takes when you're trying to heal, when you're broken, when all of these things are going on. So in addressing that, the abyss in that part, I found myself not blaming. I found myself like the acts and what he did was already taken care of. It was myself that I had to start to let go of the old self and really start to forgive and move forward into that healing. So this is all post domestic violence that now I'm healing from as an 8-year-old, that now I have to deal with as, a 36, 37, 38-year-old. And so I feel like, wow, there's really no timeline or linear way of this. It's messy. So I had to right there drop perfection, because I'm like, this is messy. And maybe that's why I have 9 kids, and maybe that's why 4 are on the autism spectrum, and maybe that's why 2 are deaf. You just have to drop that perfection at the door. And so it was a prayer of mine to learn how to let go. See how he answers my prayers? It's really interesting. It's really interesting. But I get it. That's how I learn. I am very much a monkey see, monkey do, take action type of thing. And maybe that's growing up with cheerleading and tumbling and gymnastics, is you repeat again and again and again until you finally understand and your body can then perform. So even though this feels like it's all over the place, I want to bring it back to one place where I had done a measurable amount of healing, even though I didn't really call it that word. And I had gotten remarried. I had had 4 more children. Life at this point was amazing. I was definitely free from that comfort cage. I had been in the learning zone, but I was at that point kind of what I call in my recovery road. And the recovery road is a place that I imagine is a place of rest. It's a place of reflection. And it is a place to recover, because we have to have those times. If you're on all the time, you cannot possibly fuel yourself. And so without the fuel to continue the light that you have within yourself, you'll burn right out. So in that recovery place, it was a beautiful place. 4 more children arrived, great marriage, good jobs. It was good. And then I got another little calling, which turned out to be my 8th child, who's a daughter, born deaf, also started developing signs of autism. So I'm like, I know this. So the race was on to try and figure out how best to help her. So the focus was there, which was great, because then I didn't have to do a lot of healing anymore, right? Because I can focus on here, give me a project, I'm all over it. So Heavenly Father was like, okay, you can go ahead and start that, but we're going to come back to where we were. Okay. So in all of these things, we have a grand move from Utah to Texas, and learning a lot, because now we're finally absolutely on our own. My in-laws are far away. My parents are far away. No siblings. Texas is its own country. If you know, it's the truth. It's just so darn big. So we were feeling pretty homesick. We were feeling pretty lonely. And this welling inside started to ask questions about love. And I had tuned out the old shame shadow for a long time and had learned how to turn it down. It never stopped, So that was something interesting. The negativity never exactly stops. It's just how much we choose to listen to through the day. You might listen to it for a few minutes because, you know, you have the little pity party and then you move forward. But that voice never stops. It's just depending on if we're in tune to it or not. And at this particular point, I was feeling pretty down and pretty low and didn't know exactly what to do. And then I was met again with that opportunity to figure out what the whole was, which was I was still holding on to one piece of those three, which of the pleasing, performing, and perfecting, which was still this little idea of pleasing. Little. Hope you caught that sarcasm. I just couldn't quite measure up to the expectations that old Shamey continued to let me know I was missing every day in and day out. So I decided to do something really just silly and off the cuff, and I was listening to an interview, doing something that was just kind of fun, and I had no idea that this was going to be an answer that was going to knock me off my feet. And we're folding laundry. At this point, because there's 11 in the family, we had 22 loads of wash a week. So Sunday night was kind of gather the pile, separate things out. I don't know who folds. We just separated and went, got it in a bucket, go, go, go. That's kind of what we did for survival. So the kids are there, I'm trying to match socks, trying to get things at least into a bucket, listening to this interview, and the lady starts to talk about an experience she had when she gave birth to her first child. And I was like, oh, tuning in. I've had 9. This sounds interesting. And she said that as soon as he was born, I just had this overwhelming feeling of love. And he didn't do anything. That statement was what broke me, because I'd always been doing so that I could still be loved. I had connected that from that abuse long ago. And I thought that I still always had to do in order to, you know, get the value or to equal or be given love. And I felt this understanding and whisper of, I've always loved you. And that was a huge chunk of the healing for myself. And I'm crying, I'm trying to fold socks. The kids are like, Mom's losing it. Hurry, hurry, fold the towels, you know, because I was a mess. I think I was blowing my nose in the socks. I mean, it was awful. And then I don't even remember if I put the socks in the clean place or back in the dirty. I don't know who got the booger sock, but I know somebody did. And within all of that, I found that piece and, well, finally kind of got myself together, and it was like, it's time to write. And I froze holding the basket because I knew the stories that I had to write. So I dove in, and that's where Pinpoints came. And what's so interesting about Pinpoints is that when I sent it off to a first kind of beta reader, she's like, I know everything about this, and I know nothing about you. I was like, dang it, I thought I could just kind of slip on past. No, that little quick email was really hard. So I started to write about myself, and 12 chapters later, I discovered, I'm like, that's this book. So I'm not going to do a combo book because that'll just kill the reader. So we're going to give them some space. So it was kind of interesting writing 2 books at once, even though it was not the intent. And through the process of writing, I've always written. There's always been journaling. There's always been things going on, always. There's been editing for other people, ghost writing for people. All of those things have gone on for a long time. But then to really focus it in on this journey was really incredible. And
so April, hold on a second. Let me stop you here, because I think that this is a great place to stop when your writing for healing began. I want to hear the other stories. Yes. Up until to the same point, and then we'll go back and talk about the writing experience, because ultimately we want to inspire people in the group that are going through adversity that maybe writing would be an option for them. Each person has their own path of things that is good for them to heal, but we want to bring stories of people that succeeded through writing. I mean, it's always a combination of things, but writing is a major one. So I'm going to introduce you now to Kathy. Kathy was introduced to me by April. And the reason was because after I interviewed April and I spoke to her about kintsugi, she said, "Oh my God, I have a friend who wrote a book who has a kintsugi dish on the cover. The two of you need to meet." And that was, the rest was history. So Kathy will share her story. Kathy, go until the writing, and then we'll go to Judy, and then we'll go back.
Awesome. Thank you, my kintsugi sister. The truth is, we are all a little broken. The gift is we can all become whole again, no matter what hurt, traumatized, or broke us. Some people believe that once you've been broken, you can never fully become whole again. I'm here to tell you, you absolutely can. I know because many years ago, I was broken. I made the choice to go on the healing pilgrimage to become whole again and journey towards kintsugi. If you don't know, kintsugi is a Japanese art form where they take the broken pottery and they put it back together piece by piece with lacquered silver, platinum, or gold. It comes with the belief and the philosophy that when something's been broken, it can be repaired and become stronger and more beautiful. The cracks are actually meant to be highlighted, not hidden. A means of becoming whole again and embrace our imperfections. Now, on
You
to
don't have to do this all again for me.
okay.
You did great.
Good. On to my brokenness. First, I want to share a piece of paper with you. This piece of paper is well over 40 years old. This was a one-page journal that I wrote shortly after I turned 13. I filled it up on one side, I flipped it over, and I filled it up on the back. And then I wrote in the corner, a part of me that I'll never forget. And that part of me that I'll never forget is that I was sexually abused by my stepfather as a child for 6 years from age 6 to age 12. I titled it, "I'll Always Hate Him." When I wrote this, it was a small release of the anger and the resentment that I had towards my stepfather, along with the anger that I had towards children being abused all over the world. I did not believe it could be stopped. When I wrote this, I had the tiny idea of writing a book. Yet, I carried a tremendous amount of shame, humiliation, incredibly low self-worth, and very low self-esteem. Because of those feelings, I folded it up, I put it away, and I didn't do anything with it then. Yet, I saved it. Unbeknownst to me, I saved it for a purpose, and that purpose is now. Why tell my story now? It's been over 40 years. I'm a hairstylist by trade, and I see clients every 4, 6, 8 weeks. One of those special clients one day shared with me her very personal story of how she was sexually abused as a child. I, in turn, shared my story with her, which I had never shared with another client before. We chatted a bit and she left. When she came back for her next appointment, she asked me, "Kathy, did you suffer depression, anxiety, or PTSD?" I paused. I had angst, I had worry, I had depressed days, I had complete lack of trust with humanity. But suffer, I did not. At the end of our conversation, she looked me square in the eye and said, "You need to write a book, girlfriend." That day I laughed it off. I couldn't see the value, yet I went into deep introspection and deep reflection and prayer. and with a calling for a purpose, I wrote my book, Broken to Beautifully Whole. In my book, Broken to Beautifully Whole, I share the 6 compelling attributes that I used in my own healing pilgrimage to pull my pieces back together, piece by piece. I kept my good perspective. I continued and built my resilience. I grew my gratitude. I added self-compassion, which I did not have any. I found my faith, and I allowed forgiveness. The last 3 that I gave you were so incredibly hard, and this healing pilgrimage was not easy, nor was it fast. But these pieces pulled me back together and brought me to Kintsugi and brought me to the point of refinding joy, my purpose, and fulfillment. Now, my book would not be complete if I did not raise awareness to the very uncomfortable childhood sexual abuse statistics that are our reality. I believe every single person can take an action to defeat. 1 in 6 boys will be sexually abused in some form before the age of 18. 1 in 4 girls will be sexually abused in some form before the age of 18. There's 48 million survivors of sexual abuse just in the United States. However, 85% don't report. What's our real number? Every 6 seconds in the United States, a child is abused. That's 10 kids every minute. How many will be abused from the time we've come on this live till the time we go off? I ask, are you comfortable with these statistics? I am not. And for that reason, I create a call to action in my book. I share the conversations that we need to have with our children about consent and teaching them body boundaries. And I talk about the words and the actions that have to stop. Every single person can do this. When we do this, we reduce our children's vulnerabilities. We empower our children, and we defeat the statistics. I was a victim of childhood sexual abuse. I survived. I stepped into my healing pilgrimage to become Kintsugi so I could thrive. I wrote my book and became a warrior for healing for all, and a warrior to defeat the statistics. It's time to break the silence. It's time for uncomfortable conversations. It is time to defeat the statistics. And it is time for all who are broken to know that they can absolutely become beautifully whole. Why be broken when we can become gold?
Beautiful. Kathy, I want to, because I know your story, I know all of your stories, but because I know your story, there is something in your story that I think is so important. And I even mentioned it in my book. I mentioned Kathy quite a few times in my book because she's so kintsugi, you know, she's so it's like I could not. But Kathy shared something with me that I think it's very important, because when we talk about forgiveness, and you, one of the chapters in my book, you will find out that I don't love the word forgiveness, because I think that the word forgiveness is misused. And I will explain why. And maybe some people will disagree with me, and that's okay. But I don't believe that the word forgiveness is used properly. What I do believe is that we need to forgive ourselves from the responsibility in our own stories and our own situations. And there was something that Kathy told me that I thought it was incredibly powerful. And the reason I want to bring this specific story in this live today, and I really go with my gut. Was not planned, but I feel that there is somebody who's here either live or later. Maybe this is like woo-woo because I'm kind of feeling it, but there is somebody that needs to listen to this. Kathy shared with me that when she was 12 years old, her mother found out about the abuse. Children family services came to the house, right? I want you to tell that part that the decision that you made, how you felt about it, and how you forgave yourself for that action, which is obvious. You were 12 years old and you had all the rights to make that choice. But I felt that this was so powerful that you're doing the work today. So share with everybody what happened.
After my mom kicked my stepfather out of the house when she found out, she called Children's Services, and they came to the house and spoke to us. And when they spoke to us, they shared with us that I would have to sit on the stand and share my story. And I knew at 12 years old, I was strong enough to do that. The part that she shared next, because of the shame, sent complete chills down my spine and fear that I couldn't even imagine. She said they would have to put my name in the paper. Now, thank heavens today that's not the case, but back then your name had to be in the paper. And because of the tremendous amount of shame and humiliation I had, I was so afraid what people would think about me, how they would look at me, and I was petrified. And then I also knew that if my dad found out, that he would sue for custody. And my stepmom was verbally tough and verbally abusive. And I didn't want to, I knew I needed my mom at that point in my life to start to heal. So unfortunately, we made the decision to not prosecute. And at the time, it felt good and it felt right. But later into life, when I was pregnant with my son, and I was angry and I was upset, and ironically, not at my stepfather, I was angry at myself. And I asked myself, why were you not strong enough at 12 years old to share your story? Why were you not afraid to put your name in the newspaper? And I had to come to terms with that. And I had to forgive myself first before I could even begin to think about forgiving my stepfather. I had to forgive myself. And I had to remember that 12-year-old had shame. She had humiliation. It was okay. In that moment, she needed her mom and she needed that space. And I made a call to Children's Services at that time in my life and told them about the perpetrator. But the point is, before I went on to forgive my stepfather, it started within. And it was hard, but it was a process, and I got there.
I find this so powerful because we are so hard on ourselves, and it's time for us to understand the situation and that decisions are made at the time with the facts of that time. So we can't judge those decisions, and we have to be forgiving of ourselves. I find it very powerful, and I believe that somebody had to hear it. Judy, you are next. Tell us your story, Jacob's story, and we want to hear about it.
Well, thank you for having me. My name is Judy Thurston. Last summer, on June 13th, I remember being at the dining room table, talking to my husband. He's a producer, filmmaker. We were getting ready to launch this meditation practice that had really transformed and revolutionized my life. And I wanted to share it with the world because it was like the missing link. I'm a health and wellness coach, and I had developed this really structured way to meditate. that was just producing amazing results in my life. And so my husband and I sat down at the dining room and kind of mapping it out. And I remember looking over at him and I said, you know, I'm a little bit apprehensive because whenever I try to do something like this, launch something big, something bad happens to Jacob. And Jacob at that time was our 16-year-old son, or actually he was 18 at the time, but at 16, he had been dealing with mental health issues, addiction issues, substance abuse. And so we had been in and out of rehab and, you know, just dealing with challenges as a family. Now we were in a season of peace and sobriety and everything was good. Like Mary said, he had gotten signed to a record label. He was living in Hollywood. He was an artist doing really well. But, you know, the mama gut just felt like I'm a little bit apprehensive. And so Eric, my husband, looked at me and he said, not this time. He said, Jacob is not going to derail this. This is your thing, and we're going to make this happen. And so I said, okay. And he went off to work. That was about 9:30 in the morning. About 10:45, I get a phone call from Jacob's girlfriend saying he was found unresponsive and he was being rushed to the emergency room. And little did I know that the very tools that I was getting ready to launch into the world was the tools that was going to help me through my dark night of the soul moment, right? And right away, I started using these tools, meditation, mindfulness, that I've called the GIVE principle. So I, you know, am the author of Beautiful Tragedy. And really what this is just my process, like in real time, from the moment we got the phone call, all the way, like Mary said, he was in a coma for 2 weeks. He never regained consciousness. But I'll tell you that this process was a gift because GIVE principle is an acronym. It's what I call the GIVE principle. G stands for grounding, which is a mindfulness practice of being present. And so even though Jacob never regained consciousness, there was this gift of being present with him, of just enjoying every moment that we had with him. Every breath was a gift. We got to, you know, really spend that time with him, and it was amazing. I stands for intention. Every single day, I would get a word that I would meditate on, and that was my intention for the day. And those words were the exact chapters that I wrote in the book of every single day. You are walking with me. You are, you know, it's very, I feel very naked because this book is very raw. It's very not filtered at all. I mean, you are walking with me every single day from the moment we got the phone call. V stands for visualization. And I'll tell you, that was so powerful to every day visualize Jacob waking up, visualize healing, visualize him waking up without brain damage. And a lot of people might think, well, that didn't really work out for you very well. On the contrary, you know, in the moment, like those were tools that just helped me to survive in the moment. I study a lot of Holocaust survivors, and, you know, when they were interviewed, they were asked, you know, what got them through those times of being, you know, in concentration camps. And every single one of them said it was their visualization techniques of being able to visualize coming home to their families and, you know, hugging their children. And so I'll tell you, that was a very powerful part of the practice. And lastly, E stands for expressing gratitude. And how can you express gratitude in the midst of, you know, deep, deep challenge? And it made a huge difference. Gratitude elevates the atmosphere in the room. And whenever we would go to the ICU, we'd have lots of visitors, doctors, nurses everywhere. And they were so blown away. They're like, ICU is where death happens. You guys are bringing life every day. How are you guys doing this? You know, and I mean, obviously it was not us. It was truly the Spirit of God, because we did not have that strength to do it on our own. But those were the tools that I used every single day during that time. And I write about, you know, the funeral and the memorial and, you know, kind of the days following after that. it was definitely a healing journey. It continues to be a healing journey. I still use these practices every single day. I teach other people how to do it. And it's one thing when you do it for yourself and it works for you, but to hear stories from other people that are doing it. I mean, I cannot tell you how many people have written emails or messages saying that, they were ready to take their life. But after reading the book and gaining these skills, these coping skills, and like I said, I'm super, super open and authentic in the book, sharing about not just my life, but Jacob's life, our whole family's journey, that it really gave people the opportunity to be open with their life, and it gave them permission to realize that they're not alone and they're walking through this especially a lot of teenagers. I love that so many teenagers are reading this book. And I wrote it in a way that a mother or a father who's lost a child can read it and turn around and give it to their 15-year-old teenager, and it's not intimidating at all. Like I have so many kids reading this book and it warms my heart. But, I love that they're learning these skills. We live in this social media world where everything's quick and we swipe here and we unfriend there, and we don't know how to sit in this uncomfortable grief and loss and pain and heartache. And, these young kids are not taught how to do that anymore. And so I'm very proud of the work that's out there now. I'm not a writer. I never thought I would write a book, and we'll kind of go around and how that happened, but it's just really miraculous. I wrote the book. It launched July 15th, and Jacob's 1-year death anniversary was June 27th. So it was a very quick, in about a year's time, we got, released this book.
Amazing.
But yeah.
And by the way, my father's passing, his anniversary of his passing is this Friday, and my book went live yesterday on Amazon. And also I have a memoriam at the end of the book, and there is a strong thing, like when we write and we put all of that and we're doing in somebody's memory, the fact that it coincides with their death, there is something very special about it, and I know. So here is the thing. We ran a little bit over the time that I had allotted for the stories. So I will ask one question each one of you, so we can still have time for questions. But before I go into this one question, I want you guys to answer, whoever is live and whoever will watch it later on replay. Do you understand now why I am addicted to talking to resilient women? Like, have you not already fallen in love with those three? They are the air I breathe. Because when you speak to women who went through such adversity and they are putting themselves out there and their stories out there for the benefit of others, forgetting about shame, forgetting about decisions that they made with their lives, not focusing on being judged, but focusing on helping others, these are heroes in my book. So write something about it if you agree with me, and I'll ask one question and then I'll show some of the comments that I've been getting. So we'll go back to April, Kathy, and Judy. I want in one question, how do you feel that the process of writing helped with your healing? It's going to be the same question for all of you, but how do you feel that the process of writing, not about publishing, not about selling, because most people in this group, they have no desire to be published authors. But tell me your intentions when you wrote it.
So for myself, it helped me to get everything that was banging around up here and in here onto a concrete place that I could actually read, look through, scratch over, highlight. Like there was something, that was the piece where I wanted to make sure that I was able to really understand all of the feelings and processes that was actually happening. Because it is messy when you're writing about your own stuff. And so in my writing, the very first story that ever comes out is this victim story. The perspective is all victim. And then the next story, which is you can say full story, or through the edit, it becomes a survivor story. And you see like punching, like boxing gloves on, and you see this like strength come right out. But it's like kind of crazy and in your face. And then on the next go through, I see this thriver, this thriving piece, totally surprising. And it makes me sit down for a minute and realize and walk in gratitude and just think, wow, look how far everything has come. That's amazing. And then kind of that fourth part.
Process, you were
through the
able
whole process.
So through the process of writing, you could see your graduation from victim to survivor to thriver.
And now to victor. So the very last time that I went through it, the emotions, the feelings, all of that, it's like that victim story is still that poor me, poor me. The survivor is, I made it. I made it. The thriver is like, I made it and I'm going to bring you with me. And the victor is, I made it. I'm going to bring you with me. And I'm going to show you how you can forgive. It's full circle. And so that's for me what happened in the writing process.
Amazing. How about you, Kathy?
Before I started writing my book, I was in a really good place, which is why I wrote it. After that conversation with my client, I was not prepared for where it would take me. I was a victim. I survived. I went to thriver. But writing my book took me to two different places: empowerment and warrior. And when I put it into words, literally there was blood, sweat, and tears. And I mean that literally. I don't mean that figuratively. And there were a ton of tears. And even though I was in a good place, I couldn't even fathom how much more empowered I would become by putting it in paper and letting it go. It was like another piece of me grew. So incredibly empowering, and a warrior to know that I want to invite others to healing, and I am a warrior to defeat the childhood sexual abuse statistics.
Fantastic. Judy?
Awesome. The same with you, Kathy. I had a friend talk to me at Starbucks having coffee, and she'd been following my journey, and online I was very vocal and very transparent about our journey. And she said, I've been following you and you need to write a book. Mind you, I was fresh in my healing journey, my grieving journey, and that was the last thing on my mind. And that was on August, that was in September. In August, I had a dream. And in my dream, the title came to me, Beautiful Tragedy. And it was so compelling that I got up out of bed to write it down. It's like 3 a.m. Didn't know what it was. It just was this beautiful title. And I wrote it down. I went back to sleep, forgot about it. September 9th, I'm having coffee with my friend. And she says, you need to write a book. And I was like, yeah. Not going to happen, 2 nights later, I get a voice in the middle of the night. I don't know if I'm awake or I'm asleep, but the voice says, you are a writer. And it wasn't like an encouraging, like, hey, you can do this. It was almost angry, like, you are a writer. Stop making excuses. Go write this book.
Aww.
That was September 9th. The next morning, I wrote 45,000 words on my phone.
Wow.
40 chapters in 18 days. And so I had no idea it was actually going to be a book. I just needed to get it out. It was already in there and it just needed to come out. And that, to your point, Mary, like the healing journey is just getting it out. I'm also a grief counselor, and we teach grief is energy. If you don't get it out, it's going to implode and it's going to cause all kinds of, negative consequences to that. So for me, I thought, I'm just getting it out. I don't know what we're going to do with this, but I'm just going to get it out. But little by little, there were these nudges and these pushes and sometimes kicking to say, no, you got to do this. And I believe Jacob was part of, the nudging there, because it really is his story. And it is a beautiful tragedy. I mean, it's tragic, but so many great blessings and so much hope from it. So, yeah.
No words. No words. So here is what we're going to do. I'm going to show some of the comments. If anybody has questions, now is the time. But I want to say something. Remember that I posted in the group that I was going to do a giveaway. And we have a total of 8 books to give away. We're not going to give all the 8 books here because we have a link where we want people to come later and join the group and come on the replay. We're going to give tonight 3 books. Okay, tonight we're going to give 3 books. We're going to do one of Judy's, one of Kathy, one of April. I'm not giving you mine yet because I'm going to send 2 in the giveaway just because I don't have any copies, physical copies. I don't want anybody waiting. So we'll do 3 and then we'll do 5 via the email, 2 of mine and then 1 of each of theirs. But here it is what we're going to do. The first 3 people to write a comment that they agree to post on their page, the copy that I'll give it to them. And that copy is going to be the link of this video because it's on YouTube. And the links of all the books and telling people to read the stories so they can be inspired and see that there is healing after domestic violence, after childhood abuse, and after losing a child. Because we have to share these messages because we need to help other people. That is the reason. So we have Gina won a book. Hold on a second. Pam won a book. Gina won a book. And the third one, I'm going in order, is Noraline won a book. Okay, everybody else who agreed to post, okay, Marina said, Liliana said, what I'm going to do, whoever else agrees, you're going to get 10 entries in the other part of the giveaway. So all of you can participate. So Pam is getting, hold on a second. Did Pam read already any of the books? Pam, did you read any of the books already? I don't know. Pam didn't answer. Do any of you know Pam?
Just through Facebook.
Okay, because I don't want to give her a book that if she already read. Pam is getting April's book. Gina is getting Kathy's book. And Noraline is getting Judy's book. Okay? So you PM me, direct message me your address. They will mail you out. There is 5 more books, 2 of mine, 3 more books. All of you who said that you agreed to post, and there's a bunch of you, Marina, Lillian, Peggy, Salud, all of you will get 10 extra entries to the other giveaway. So this way you get an advantage because you're helping us out. Okay, anybody, do you have questions? Let's see this. I'm so thankful that April found the strength to leave the relationship. It's never easy, but she's very inspirational. I too went through a 3-year abusive relationship. Thank goodness I was not married. And when I finally left, I went and worked. And I was at a hotline worker for women shelter. And I learned so much and had to search my soul to find out what was in the relationship. And I have learned so much about myself and why I was in this relationship. That's incredible. Any questions for anyone in specific? Here we have some comments I want to share. Let me see. Noraline, can I have the one of domestic violence?
I'll give it to her for free. Sure, why not?
Okay, there you go. I have Judy's book. So I guess we have to, we'll just switch it over. Okay, we'll switch it. Okay. She said no. Oh, okay. About Pam? Okay. Okay, fantastic. Any questions? Because we are at 9 o'clock and I'm very, very respectful of your time. I just want to if you have any questions, we want to answer. These women's stories are on my blog. So you can go there, you can read their stories. There's also a link to their books if you want to purchase, if you don't want to wait for the other giveaway. I'm going to post in the group too, but you can read a little bit more about their stories in the blog. I'll put those links. And all I want you to remember is is what Kathy said about kintsugi, because we are all broken in some place or another. We're chipped at some points. We're a lot broken. Sometimes we're a little broken, but we're broken. But the beautiful thing is that we can put ourselves together and we can mend and we can heal. And then we can take our stories and do something absolutely amazing. No questions. I just want to thank everyone for sharing these stories. Thank you. Thank you. Salute already read the blog, because it's true. I did post the stories of the women in the group. I'll post it again. Please, the names of the books. Yes, I will. I'm trying to work through a family member's death. Penny, you have to read Judy's book, because it's very, very helpful when it comes to grief. If you like Kindles, there is a Kindle version, but we're not here trying to sell books. I want you to understand, now that I'm working on my journey of books, I mean, you don't make money off of books. You don't, okay? Nobody's getting rich from books. I mean, yes, if you're Jack Canfield, or if you are Jay Shetty. I just got his book. This is this week's book. I checked it out. He's making over $200 grand a month on this book. But we're not Jay Shetty. We're just trying to change one woman at a time and give hope to people, right? What is Norlene? Thank you, Miri. Sure, so kind. Thanks, you brave warriors. You're all inspiring. We all have a story. You have a story. Take a pen and paper. Gina asked before if we're going to talk about the structure of writing. I'm happy, whoever is interested in that, I'm happy to share with you the structure that I used. April also willing to share. We can all come back and share the structure of writing, of how we did it. I started one way, it wasn't moving. So I did seek help and I figured out a structure. And once I went to that structure, my book was written in 30 days.
Wow.
Hope, yes. We're here for hope. Salute
Definitely.
to, is amazing. She's here to give people hope. My pleasure, Naomi. Thank you, Judy. Thank you, April. Thank you, Kathy. I love you all. And I'll send all the information, all the winners. DM me your addresses. This book can go out to you. Have a great one.
Bye, everyone.
Good night.